Welcome to this white paper video and SDI's big innovation in forensics coaching, narrated by Sarah Winters. Is the middle school, high school, and college speech and debate circuit, or what is also called the forensics circuit, doing enough to train tomorrow's leaders? Although the circuit is vast, popular, passionate, and vital, it may manifest two big problems or two missed opportunities. It is questionable, one, that the circuit teaches the top critical thinking technique that is available, and two, that it significantly broadens the mind, that is, significantly increases relevant knowledge. This video explains how these two important observations may regrettably be true. It also shows that practical, powerful enhancements of the circuit are not only in reach, but are being provided right now, care of Statesman Debate Institute. SDI's method is fourfold. We maximize the best of the circuit today. We revitalize the best of the forensics training of old. We harvest all history and perspectives that are relevant to us today, and we harness the latest information technology. SDI's pioneering ways are very much to your benefit. Critical thinking and communication skills are at the core of leadership. SDI imparts the top technique that civilization has seen. As such, it has found a practical way to build upon and go beyond the typical fare found on the forensic circuit today. One of the major enhancements that SDI offers involves critical thinking. We show the student what it takes to become an expert in his or her own right. On the forensics circuit, and throughout education as well, students, I fear, rely very heavily upon other people to do their thinking for them. Look no further than how a student tends to use the internet. It's all about the click of a button. They pose a question on the computer, they get an answer. You can find some truths this way, but certainly not all truths, nor does it amount to critical thinking. On the circuit, we talk about cutting cards. A card is an allusion to the days of index cards before computers. The cutting of cards is a good exercise. The circuit is accomplishing important things, but more can be done. Here is what is typically found on a card. Authors, the expert's name, publication date, his or her claim, a tincture of proof. In the context of forensics, a card is admissible evidence. The use of cards for many students may be the very first time that they ever resort to evidence. The debater learns that evidence is a better way to make your point than mere conjecture or, worse, raw emotion. He or she also discovers that the use of evidence is more fun. This kind of evidence, quoting an expert, has limitations. If a debater invokes an expert, then the opponent might invoke an offsetting expert. How much closer to discovering the truth, or at any rate, determining a winner, are we? Here is a schematic representation of the typical use of cards. It's not unlike a conveyor belt. The author does some critical thinking, presumably. A fragment of this thinking is encountered by the forensic student during research. The student, who is at the end of the conveyor belt, decides if the fragment belongs on an affirmative card or on a negative card. How much thinking does this collating and related activity involve? Inasmuch as the student alternates between arguing the affirmative and negative sides of an issue, good is being accomplished. Learning is taking place. Yet, how much overall thinking is taking place? High-level thinking is being done by the fellow over here. By contrast, is second-order thinking the best that the typical debater achieves? SDI shows the student a practical way to undertake first-order critical thinking. Believe me, there is a practical way. In the process, the student is learning what it takes to be an independent thinker, even an expert, and how to make better use of established experts. Of course, they cannot be expected to master everything about a subject, but they can experience the essence of the methodology of the true expert. How does the student become an expert? SDI shows the student the first big steps to take. Specifically, we share the power of classical rhetoric. Of tremendous importance is the well-designed research plan. Also, there are wonderful labor-saving devices in the crafting and unfolding of the plan. Back to the steps to take. First, there is the analysis of the topic or resolution. The typical debater undertakes the so-called topical analysis. SDI shows the student something better, sharing powerful tools. Professional experts use them deliberately or intuitively. These lines depict the use of these tools. Thus, the SDI student studies the topic or resolution comprehensively from multiple angles. Before finalizing the research plan, one more step remains. It is a step that is often given little or no attention elsewhere on the circuit. The professional may even give it inadequate attention. This is the process of anticipating the quality of information that might be harvested and of maneuvering among the perceived shortfalls. After completing steps 1 and 2, the student finalizes the research plan. The information that the student has decided to harvest is metaphorically inside this circle. Our students are taught to pull from a variety of original and secondary sources. The so-called expert, you may recall from the previous slide, also presumably harvests both original and secondary sources. The typical forensic student is likely to shun original sources and may come up short when working with the secondary sources. A good research plan includes 2 other provisions. Harvested information needs to be evaluated. Flexibility is needed too, in case another harvest is called for. After the harvest comes the drawing of conclusions, and objections must be anticipated. The aforementioned tools, buttressed by a few others, are of great assistance at this stage. The next step is to draw up a broad set of conclusions and proofs. The final step is to array a subset of conclusions and proofs, and this subset is specific to the occasion or contest. Victory awaits. What about knowledge? There is this huge misconception that student forensics is only about technique. In reality, forensics is not only about learning technique, it is also about acquiring important knowledge. Forensics typically deals with very important, weighty matters, public policy and public values. Furthermore, forensic students usually alternate between domestic matters and foreign affairs. This is very much to the benefit of the country. Even better, debaters become very enthusiastic about current events and issues and devote a great deal of time to these crucial matters. SDI expands upon the knowledge that is typically acquired on the circuit. We introduce the student to inclusive knowledge. We cultivate the search for major competing interpretations of events, people, and institutions, whereas the circuit tends to promote exclusive thinking and excludes a lot of important interpretations and information. SDI coaching stirs creativity like nothing else does. Let me explain further. This next illustration depicts the circuit's approach to knowledge. The circuit emphasizes the conventional wisdom on public matters. The conventional wisdom is inside this box. It denotes tendencies. It denotes both the solutions that the country tends to resort to and the information and lessons of history that the country tends to draw from in order to find solutions. Today's familiar conservative, liberal, and mix of conservative and liberal approaches make up the conventional wisdom. Years in the making, the conventional wisdom keeps America in the forefront of all nations. This wisdom informs our public policies, which in turn accomplish many good things. Without question, it is a very good thing that forensic students explore the conventional wisdom and that they weigh competing approaches within this wisdom. But could this exploration be improved? We certainly think so. I will explain how SDI improves it very shortly. Another question arises. Does the circuit place too much stress upon the conventional wisdom? Leagues typically assign topics and resolutions from the vantage point of the conventional wisdom, and debaters typically confine themselves to secondary sources that emphasize the conventional wisdom. Does the conventional wisdom come anywhere close to equaling all wisdom? Could there be yet other ways to do things, and yet other insights to gain from history? The truth is, the conventional wisdom hardly amounts to all wisdom. For one thing, it can be shown that today's conventional wisdom is a variation on Enlightenment thinking circa 1790. Such thinking was extraordinary. It was also exclusive, or tended to be. The Founding Fathers, in looking for lessons, confined themselves to ancient and modern Western civilization. To turn to history in all eras and from several civilizations when seeking solutions, moreover, to harvest multiple sources of information when seeking solutions, is to engage in inclusive thinking. Such thinking, approaching problems from as many angles as practicable, is extremely helpful. Perhaps policies can be made even better. To the credit of the forensic circuit, there has been the beginnings of an effort to go beyond the conventional wisdom, yet a great deal more awaits exploration. Enter SDI's offering of strategic knowledge. The very best rhetoricians of all time, such as Cicero, Quintilian, and John Quincy Adams, encouraged their forensic students to amass universal knowledge. Wouldn't it be grand if aspiring leaders would learn everything there was to learn on every subject? Alas, the attainment of universal knowledge is not for mere mortals. Therefore, the greatest teachers of aspiring leaders taught the next best thing. SDI calls this next best thing strategic knowledge. Strategic knowledge is the buildup of a multiple angle and multiple source, that is, inclusive appreciation of your country's conventional wisdom. This includes a sense of how the country got where it is now and of where it might be going. Strategic knowledge is a breathtaking mountaintop view. Here is this circle again. This circle, remember, depicts all information pertaining to a particular subject or debate resolution. Forensic students usually spend a great deal of time undertaking research. This is one of the beauties of the circuit. On the other hand, typical research could be better directed. SDI provides better, moreover, systematic direction. First of all, SDI directs a sophisticated exploration of the conventional wisdom secondary sources. There's a balanced exploration of the competing conservative, liberal, and mixed approaches. And there is the examination of how conventional thinkers arrived at their respective views. Second, we introduce students to relevant original sources, both quantitative and qualitative. The third thing that the buildup of strategic knowledge entails is the casting of a wide net and the inclusion of other secondary sources. This, in turn, takes us to non-conventional wisdoms. Such wisdoms are found abroad, in America's past, and elsewhere in the past. Although we lack the time to explore the non-conventional wisdoms in depth, helpful comparisons can be drawn. Consequently, today's American conventional wisdom can be appreciated from fresh perspectives. There is a fourth step. Every time that a new topic or resolution is assigned, steps 1, 2, and 3 are repeated, and the thoughtful probing of the totality of original and secondary sources expands. Thus, there is an organized amassing of knowledge. Moreover, SDI students are gaining some sense of the big picture, especially from the point of view of America and its origins. The object is not to steer our students toward one way of solving problems over another, or to favor one particular set of information over another. The object is to expand their menu of options and to help them see the course of human affairs, especially American affairs, from multiple angles. The SDI innovation can be recapped comparatively. It compares quite favorably to the typical forensics career and even more so to the student who never tries out for forensics. The SDI student is indicated by capital A. The other students are indicated by capitals B, C, and D. Of course, this is all a rough generalization. Many are those who did not follow the approach that we recommend, yet reach or have reached great heights. On the other hand, it was precisely by following the SDI approach or something like it that by and large civilization was built up out of nothing. SDI helps debaters maximize the benefits of competing, including making many amazing friends. Call us. Here's a photo of Dr. Arminio and a list of his top credentials. The Institute, under his direction, has tried, tested, and honed a coaching approach that will help your sons and daughters soar in competitions, academics, and careers.